What if everything you've been told about healing is only half the story? In this chapter, we reveal how ancient spiritual wisdom and cutting-edge neuroscience are finally converging. This isn't just theory. It's a map to transform your trauma, emotions, and mindset from the inside out. Welcome to Chapter 1 of Rewiring the Mind, the psychology of spiritual healing. Let the journey begin.
Chapter 1: The Science and Psychology of Spiritual Healing. When science meets spirituality. For a long time, the realms of science and spirituality were seen as completely separate. One dealt with neurons and evidence, the other with soul and faith. But today, we're witnessing a beautiful convergence where research is illuminating age-old spiritual wisdom. Spiritual healing, in essence, refers to the process of overcoming emotional or physical challenges through practices that connect mind, body, and spirit. Psychologically, this often translates to reduced stress, improved mental health, and even physical health benefits. What's fascinating is that scientists are now capturing these effects in studies and statistics, putting numbers to what spiritual practitioners have felt for centuries. One striking finding: people who regularly engage in spiritual or religious practices tend to be healthier and happier on average. Social epidemiologist Jeff Levin noted that over 1,600 studies have examined the link between spirituality, religion, and health, and the evidence is overwhelming. Across different ages, genders, and cultures, those with spiritual involvement show better health outcomes. These can include lower rates of depression and anxiety, better coping with illness, and even longer lifespan in some studies. In terms of mental health, a 2020 study found that spirituality was positively related to psychological well-being. In fact, spirituality often went hand in hand with healthy behaviors and a strong sense of life purpose, which in turn boosted well-being. In simpler terms, nurturing your spirit seems to nourish your mind. Why would this be the case? Part of the answer lies in the mind-body connection. When we engage in spiritual practices, say meditation or heartfelt prayer, we typically activate the body's relaxation response. Breathing slows, blood pressure drops, stress hormones decrease. The nervous system shifts. Over time, this reduces wear and tear on our organs and strengthens our immune system. But beyond these physical effects, spirituality provides something psychological that is immensely healing: meaning and hope. Trauma and stress often make us feel life is chaotic or pointless. Spirituality counters that by reminding us that there is meaning, even in suffering, and that we are connected to something greater, a community, a higher power, or the flow of life itself. This sense of meaning is like medicine for the psyche. Consider the placebo effect as an illustration. In clinical trials, some patients improve after taking a sugar pill simply because they believe it's medicine. Far from being just imaginary, this effect is a real demonstration of the mind's power over the body. Researchers point out that if belief and expectation can trigger healing processes, that's something to pay attention to. In spiritual healing, faith and intention play a similar role. Believing that you can heal, or that you are being supported by a higher force, is not naive. It actually engages your brain in ways that can catalyze real change. Your mind can release its own medicine, such as endorphins and immune boosters, when given the right signals of hope and positivity. So, spirituality often provides the belief in healing that turbocharges psychological techniques. The psychology of belief and connection. Let's delve a bit into psychology. Humans are wired for connection to other people and to a sense of purpose. Trauma and mental illness often make us feel isolated and purposeless. Spiritual practices, even simple ones like expressing gratitude or mindful breathing, begin to rebuild those connections. Psychologically, practices like these increase activity in brain areas associated with empathy and emotional regulation, while quieting areas linked to fear and self-criticism. In a way, spirituality often shifts our mindset from "what's wrong with me" to "I am part of something larger and I have inner strengths." This shift can be transformative. Moreover, engaging in a spiritual community, such as a meditation group, a church, mosque, temple, or even an online mindfulness circle, provides social support, a known factor in resilience. Sharing your struggles and hopes with others in a ritual or spiritual context can alleviate the shame or loneliness that often accompany psychological wounds. Myriad studies show that religious or spiritual involvement can improve mental health and help people cope with trauma, in large part due to these supportive, meaning-making aspects. For instance, survivors of disasters or personal tragedies often report that their faith or spiritual outlook was a key source of comfort and strength during recovery. Some even experience post-traumatic growth, a positive psychological change, where trauma ultimately deepens their sense of purpose or appreciation for life. In these cases, spirituality often acts as the fertilizer for that growth, helping individuals find light in the darkness. On a neurological level, spiritual practices can resemble mental exercises that strengthen your brain. When you meditate or pray regularly, it's like going to the gym for your brain's attention and compassion muscles. Over time, these practices can increase cortical thickness in areas related to attention and sensory processing, meaning your brain may literally grow new connections that make you more focused and present. They can also reduce reactivity in the amygdala, the brain's fear center, so you're not as easily triggered or anxious. Don't worry if these terms are unfamiliar. We'll explore them more in coming chapters. The key point here is, spiritual practices can produce measurable changes in brain function and structure that correspond to feeling calmer, safer, and more in control of your emotions. Reflection. Take a moment to reflect on your own experience with spirituality or belief. Has there been a time when a prayer, a meditation, or even a moment in nature gave you comfort during stress? What did that feel like? You might jot down a few words that capture the experience, e.g., warmth, not alone, hopeful. These feelings are clues to the psychological power of spiritual connection in your life. Bridging two worlds for healing. By now, you can see that what we call spiritual healing has very real psychological components. Likewise, effective psychological healing often touches on the spiritual, like finding meaning or reconnecting with core values. This book advocates bridging these two worlds intentionally. For example, if you are in therapy, you might consider discussing your spirituality with your therapist. Studies suggest that tailoring therapy to include a client's spiritual beliefs can improve outcomes. If you have a spiritual practice, you might complement it with some knowledge of psychology, such as understanding how trauma affects the brain, coming up in the next chapter, so you can target your spiritual practice where you need it most. Throughout the chapters ahead, we'll explore specific tools. Meditation, Chapter 3, as a spiritual and psychological exercise for healing. Neuroplasticity, Chapter 4, as the science of how your mind truly can change. Inner child work, Chapter 5, as a way to heal the past by nurturing your younger self. Mindfulness, Chapter 6, as the daily practice of present moment awareness. And finally, integration, Chapter 7, bringing it all together for lasting change. Each tool has roots in both science and spirituality. For instance, meditation is a cornerstone of many spiritual traditions and a proven method in psychology for stress reduction. Inner child work has the ring of soulful healing and is used in evidence-based therapies like schema therapy to resolve childhood wounds. As we proceed, remember that you don't need to subscribe to any particular spiritual belief to benefit. Whether you talk to God, your higher self, or simply use mindfulness to stay grounded in the now, what matters is that you tap into the emotional qualities that spirituality offers. Qualities like compassion for yourself and others, forgiveness, gratitude, and hope. These are therapeutic in the truest sense. They reshape the mind toward health. In the next chapter, we'll start with one of the heaviest challenges many people face: trauma. We'll see how trauma can rewire the brain and spirit in painful ways and lay the groundwork for how we can begin to undo that damage. This understanding will give context to why practices like meditation and inner child work are so important. Science now validates what spiritual healers long intuited, that healing involves the whole self. Armed with this knowledge, let's turn to the story of trauma. What actually happens in the brain when we're traumatized? And how does it affect our sense of self and spirit? By understanding the psychological and spiritual impact of trauma, we can better appreciate the healing path forward. Ready? Let's dive into the journey of trauma, how it scars us, and how we can overcome it.